All right, guys, welcome back to the Way Podcast with your host Sajid Murwar. On this
Alright,
week's episode, we have a returning guest, Ethan Sanchez, featured on what was it, episode three of this podcast. Welcome back, Ethan.
hello. Thank you for having me back.
Ethan right now is in his lair.
Yeah,
He's
we're
in
in
his
the cave.
the bat. He's in his bat cave right now.
Yep.
But yeah. So on this episode, it's going to be, I guess, kind of like an update episode where we kind of just talk about things we were working on, different projects, whatever we got going on. So Ethan, what do you got going on since last episode? Anything new?
Just working on my book. Uh, edit. Oh, I got finished an Audible at Amazon. It's been, a butt face taking for Audible to be published. So I got to figure out why it's taking so long. But I'm almost done my book, and I'm kind of delayed. I want to get this for the 28th of this November. And when I get to, then I'll be pretty proud.
Yeah,
Otherwise, nothing too wild, man. I wish I had something coming out, but there's always something that stops me from getting my stuff out when I want it out.
yeah, it happens, right? Especially when there's always it's like you're busy all the time. Things are going on, like you're working every day, so it's like things just happen sometimes.
Yeah, and that's just part of business, really. But
Yeah, you got to be adaptable. That's for sure.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I remember in high school, my Mr. Vela. Do you remember Vela?
I don't never had him, but he was a tech class, right? Tech teacher.
You know, he's a business. He was a business teacher.
Oh, never had him.
Yeah,
But
so
anyways,
he would always that's the first thing, the most important thing he would say in every class, every case study we did was companies need to be adaptable to the situation. Every company failed in each of these categories because they didn't adapt to the new situation. Like, and they just didn't like want to accept a new way. They're kind of stuck in their old ways.
yeah,
And I feel like that's the name of the game in business. Whoever can adapt the fastest and adapt the best will stay around the longest, you know?
that's for sure. Look at Blockbuster. He died
Yeah,
pretty quick.
yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, my work, doing pretty well. You know, things are starting to progress. Now, it's my main goal is just trying to like business people,
Hmm.
and then hopefully that'll help me like get myself out of the pit and be much easier to like find better connections. In fact, an interesting part, like I don't know if you know, but there's like this YouTuber who like talks about like scams on Instagram or whatever, and
Yeah. I think
yeah, I don't
I think
know.
I've seen maybe one of their
He's got his
videos.
face like this. He's always smiling. It's
I
like
don't know. There's probably like yeah. I've probably seen
Instagram.
one of their videos.
I'm sure you have. It's he's getting popular. But anyways, I was reading this book and it was talking about how like you should talk to people that seem like impossible to talk to. And I emailed the guy, and the guy emailed me back. It's like epic, man. And we kind of had a conversation going back and forth, but now he didn't respond back to one of my emails. So I
Yeah.
don't know how I'm gonna find an opportunity to talk to him. But it would have been nice if I could like have a good connection with someone I don't know to have like higher, partners or whatever. Because I know he knows a lot of like experienced, well, millionaires and experienced
Yeah.
real estate agents, which is pretty helpful.
Yeah. It's all about the people you know, right? And sometimes it kind of gets a bad rap, especially like I'm in business school. That's kind of like the name of the game is come to the networking events, network to get a job. Like that's like your goal is to meet there and talk like pretend like we're having a meaningful conversation to get a job, right? Those are
Mhm.
only surface level, really. Like maybe they'll get you the job, but the person's not. I think there's like at all these networking events, that's everyone is doing that. If they're there at the networking event, you already want to do that. Like you're not special by wanting to network. You know what I mean? And once you're at the networking event, you how do you differentiate yourself from the rest of the crowd. I think the best way is actually trying to have a proper conversation, not just BSing with the person. Sometimes you got to BS with people, but like I think you remember the people most when you actually have a proper conversation. Like I remember I did I went to an event from my program, and it was basically we talked to upper years, and they talk about how they like what do you need to get internships, jobs, and all that. And I remember staying in one room, and they're just talking about like, oh yeah, this is good for this firm. Like I didn't even know about this first year, guys. Don't worry about it. Like just try your best and look for internships. Keep applying. The same thing everyone says. Just keep applying to all these different jobs, right? Whatever. Have a good resume. Like very general, vague things that everyone should be doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, this room is kind of boring. So I left that room and I went to another room on the Zoom thing. And I came into the room. There's a few people I already knew in there that was the same age as me. And we started talking about like, there's this guy, I'll shout him out, Atharv. He has a podcast, Different Boats. Was it Different Boats, Same Storm? Yeah, Different Boats, Same Storm, DBSS. They had a podcast over during the pandemic. I think it's on pause right now, but he was there, and this is before I knew who he was. And on there, we kind of got to talking about like because we were all in the commerce program. This was kind of like a general business, or yeah, like a general just upper year meetup, and he wasn't in the commerce program, so he was telling us from his perspective. He was in like economics and social justice or something like that, or ethical. It was economics and ethics or something like that. He had two separate majors, and we were talking about how do we use business, how do we use this tool of commerce to help people, right? And then we actually had a meaningful conversation, and like I couldn't tell you what that person's name was before in the other group, or any of the people in that group who were talking like about oh, how do you get this job, and do you have to have this resume. What really stuck with me was that talking to that upper year student Atharv about, and with like everyone else, how we can use our expertise and our abilities as commerce students and people going into this field to actually use money to help people. And from that, I checked out his podcast, and I'm sure, and he has, it's pretty successful. There's like, they had like 300-400 followers on Instagram, lots of cool guests on there. And
That's pretty cool.
like that's a real networking, right? Networking, it's not really just networking. It's almost like it's a proper heart-to-heart conversation. That's when I feel like when you really connect with someone, that's when you're willing to give them a chance, when you know someone that well, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I also build a stronger relationship later down the line, And plus, you can learn something new instead of wasting time.
Of course, always be a student, right?
Mm-hmm. Be resourceful as well
Mm-hmm.
for yourself.
Be adaptable. All these things.
Exactly.
Get them tattooed on your chest. Just be adaptable, be resourceful, and you'll never forget.
Yeah.
But yeah, today I remember, like, that reminds me, we were talking today in class, in my organizational behavior class. Basically, it's kind of like business psychology, or psychology in the context of an organization, and we kind of talk about how do you keep people motivated, what are the best leadership styles, how to effectively communicate, and all those sorts of things, right? And like I remember we actually discussed it today. We're talking about socialization and how when people, I think it was effort justification was the idea. So it's basically that people are more willing to do it, continue doing a task when they've exerted a certain amount of effort into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when you exert a lot of effort with people who are in this same situation as you, then you form a much closer bond. You know, people. That's why people bond through like hardships and whatever, right? So basically, it's like hazing. You know, when somebody gets added to like a freshman gets added to a football team, whatever, they always have to go through initiation, like all these crazy challenges and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And through that, through going through those trials and tribulations with other freshmen and making it out, right? They form apparently they form a much closer bond, and then they work much more effectively. There's been many studies on this, how some level of conformity, right, adhering to the norms actually aids in the performance of an organization. But the thing is, sometimes you can get too conformist, and people just start doing things, just keep doing things because that's how you're supposed to do them, right? And that's when organizations stagnate and they just become like, you know, if there's any small change, they don't know how to react to it. So it's like, you gotta have a bit of both. Some places you need more, some places you need less, right? Like
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, like at Ford, if you're on a assembly line, we don't really need someone who's a nonconformist, right?
Yeah.
Somebody who wants to be creative and rearrange the parts in a different way. Um, but if you're at like, an advertising agency and you need to figure out how to make a new ad for someone, you got to be creative. You can't just keep making the same ad for every single client, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. No, it's pretty interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't really put any input besides just like I've just had an urge or a desire to learn more. You know, like a lot of people just go to parties, but I think
hmm
parties are just kind of like really bland.
Especially,
Like
yeah, especially when
so,
you don't know the person.
yeah, not
Unless,
only that, like it's just kind of pointless. You know, like, you don't really get anything out of it. You have a good time for one night, and
yeah,
that one night's gonna
regret
go
it the next
forever.
morning.
Yeah, yeah. And then you just keep on doing it, and then maybe you might meet some cool people, but those people are only there for one reason, just like you're there too, just to party. When you
hmm
go to I want to go to a party with like all these like successful owners or people are not there to like really party, but like there to like civilize, you
Yeah,
know, speak to each other more. I think that'd be more of an entertaining, you know,
yeah,
just a place to be compared to that. It's calm. You get to connect with other people, learn new things, not which is better in the long term. I think it's more the mature thing too,
yeah.
in
To
my
be
opinion.
frank about it, yeah. I mean, those are the best part. I guess we don't really have parties. Like the best get-togethers are honestly when you have somebody like you want to actually have a good conversation. At least for me, right? I like having those parties too. Like with a bunch of people and there's music and we're dancing. Like I don't mind those kind of parties. I like having those too. But I also really enjoy those smaller groups of people coming over. You joke around, have dinner, and then you have a good conversation where you learn about people, and that's like one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite ways to learn is just through conversation and absorbing. Because unlike what most people might think on this podcast, I'm talking a lot, but I usually in conversation I listen 90% of the time, right?
Hmm.
I try my best. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I don't say much. That's like when I was younger, I used to sit with the adults and I wouldn't know what they're talking about, but I'd just sit there and listen. That's how you learn, right? You have to first get to listen before you participate.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm not saying not to be. I'm not saying be afraid to participate. What I'm saying is, if you want to, at least for me, the best way is to um, hear from people who are already experienced in some sort of area, and then once you gain some knowledge on it, then you speak on it, right?
Mm,
And that's really why I started this podcast, talking with people, just learning, right? Learning from each other in a casual setting. Like I learned so much about my instructor, on my old training partners, and different aspects of life. Talking with you, and
mm,
just even like doing stupid stuff with my friends. Like sometimes you need those stupid episodes, like episode what was it? I think it was episode 7, where we talked about fast food items and stuff, dumb stuff like that. But yeah, like it's one of my favorite mediums to learn. It's very personal.
mm. Something nice I would do in your free time,
Yeah,
you know? Use every time wisely.
exactly. It's not really because a lot of people associate learning with school, and a lot of people associate school with not having fun.
Yeah,
Learning
I
does.
think, and you know what? I think school really just makes learning so much worse than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why would anyone want to learn? The only reason I like to learn is just makes me feel like I'm better of myself than yesterday. Like I've leveled up, you could say, you know. That's how I
Level
feel.
up.
Level up,
What's
exactly.
that? Who's that guy that says that? There's some one of those motivational speaker guys or whatever. He said level up. I forget.
I can only just think about the just do it guy.
Oh, just
Just do it!
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I think. Uh, that school really, like a lot of teachers who are not interested in school kind of just ruin just children's experience. And then, of course, those kids are unexpired or whatever are gonna do stuff that, you know, obviously it's gonna delay whatever their success, whatever they want to achieve in life. Just
Yeah.
because some bad teacher or some school system can't, make it at least entertaining, right? Plus, I don't feel like school actually teaches you like why you learn it, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, like I've always stayed in class, and whenever someone teacher brings up something, I'm like, "But why do we need it?" And the answer is it's like, well, maybe eventually you might have to figure out the circumference of a circle. Making a birthday cake, you got to know the circumference of the circle, you know? But
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Yeah, for sure. Like school is so polarizing. If you don't have a good teacher, it's not enjoyable at all.
Mhm.
Like for me, like I like learning about every subject in school. There wasn't a subject I didn't like, but it was just the way it was taught. Like history is one of my favorite things to learn about. Um, and because it's close, history is closely connected with culture, and I love learning about different cultures and how people interact. And the way it's taught in school, it's like everyone like why do you think those videos like history of Japan those kind of videos on YouTube are so successful? It's because people actually find it interesting when it's shown in an interesting way. Like
Exactly.
nobody likes to memorize something just to memorize it, right? You have to like something to memorize it, or you have to be forced like in school.
Mm.
So like
And
memorizing dates is like dates of a war, dates of these different events.
this
Um,
is not important.
you don't learn, you know.
And it's not really necessary, you know,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's like it makes or marks like the dates that should be given are dates that should like have a significant point of like transition. Like for example, like obviously the date when World War I started,
Yeah,
kind of just transitioned like how everything was developed. How everything changed from like no more guns and like no more spears or whatever. They got guns and tanks and stuff like that. Stuff like that, not just like what happened to that guy, 19 freaking 42
I
and
know.
he dropped off a crate and then this crate went somewhere. Like it doesn't matter, man. whatever, like the most important things is like why the Great Depression, all this kind of stuff, like why it's important, it affects us today, not why it was affected a long time ago, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Because the whole point of learning history is so that we don't repeat it. And if
Mm.
it doesn't like oh it happened a long time ago, then why would anyone care? Unless it's interesting, obviously. But like
Yeah.
even so, there's very few people. And if they realize how it like impacts us now, they'll be like, no, that's important information to realize, you know?
Yeah, like history, like you said, is important. We should remember our history so we do not repeat it. And it's I think it's just poorly to like a lot of subjects. Like for example, a lot of people have a problem with math, the way math is taught in school. And the thing is, I don't know if I enjoyed math. I mean, math is satisfying in the sense is when you solve it, when you solve a problem, the satisfaction of completing it is great, right? You feel great. But the whole process of learning math, the thing, I feel like math is one of those things where the why is very um, vague, because math is used in so many different contexts. There's no like, oh, in this scenario, this guy has this many watermelons. He gets this many watermelons this every month. Was now this other guy gets this many cherries. Find the equation, find where the two intersect or whatever, right? But we don't learn the why. We never learn the why, especially for the thing about it. The thing I like about university is that that's all we think about is the why, right? We don't just do. Even in math, like I had math last year. I had calculus for commerce. So we had a reason. Like we had a reason why we're learning. Okay, this is a simple interest formula. This is a compound interest formula. This is an annuity formula, and we know. Okay, if you want to calculate something's how much you're gonna have in your account if you deposit this much per year, and the interest rate is this, and the loan rate is this, right?
Hmm.
Like just very practical kind of things, and then like everyone talks about trig. Like everyone hates trig. No, we don't need to measure angle of a triangle and all that. I mean, it all
Yeah.
has its applications, but I think I'm a firm believer of learning anything, right? Learning things that are not of your domain is beneficial in every way, right? Like, for example, if I'm a doctor, right? If I learn about business, it's not detrimental, If I learn about how to run my own business, how to properly market, how to manage a corporation, is it detrimental? Learning because I talked about this on I think on the last episode where everything is the same, but it's also different, right? Everything when you learn about different things, you see how the similarities and parallel things are. In the book of Five Rings by Miyoto Musashi, he says that you should not be only be a master of the sword, but you should be a master of all things: carpentry, art, calligraphy. You should try to cultivate every aspect of your life versus one, because being able to lift yourself up in different areas helps you see the main path you're heading on better, right? Um, there's a saying in karate, right? There's when you're at the bottom of a mountain, it seems like there's only one way to go up. Sometimes you need to climb another mountain to see the best way to get to the top of the mountain you actually want to climb,
Hmm.
right? And that could be equivalent to, okay, I want to become the best at this X thing, right? Sometimes you need to do something else to see from a different perspective. Oh, there's a different path to the top to your
Hmm.
goal. And, trying your best to learn about different things. And it honestly just makes life more interesting when you learn about different things.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that as for like the skills, you should be an expert in everything. Like I would just say like it's okay not to be an expert in all of it, but like if you're talented in specific talent or whatever you're interested in, you should put more focus on that. Not saying you should be
Of
excluded, but
course, yeah.
like your skill is more lucrative that way. But then again, like it's obviously it's, of course learning new other things is also important. Like I like my main focus is just trying to get my business going because I feel like that's where my middle is, at least interest, at the lowest point.
Hmm.
I mean, I want to do other things as well, which I want to, but like for now, I've decided to put a majority of my effort into this, because I'll find more lucrative, whether that's the money or time through doing this. But eventually, something like that, I do want to expand a lot, especially like I love the newer ideas of like just seeing new things differently. Like languages and have different ways of like saying how the world works, you know, which is like I guess is pretty cool, insightful. That means like every time you see someone do a specific action, you would think, oh, if I was speaking English, I would say like this person is doing this, but in Spanish it would be like the other way around. Like for example, a person sitting on a chair would be like the person in English would be like the person sitting on the chair, but in Spanish it'd be like the chair is allowing someone to sit on it. I don't know, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
It's
all
just
there's different ways to see things.
yeah, exactly. You know, but like, how about this? Like, the specific goals I want to get accomplished is learning Spanish, fluently,
Hmm.
being able to play the piano or guitar at a decent level, like you know, part expert. Uh, for now, those are my two goals. But eventually they'll expand out to more.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like I want to learn, become fluent in Punjabi. Like I can understand like most conversations and stuff, and I can read and write, but my speaking ability is not in practice all the time, right? Eventually I want to get that to like fluency level. Um, Maybe learn a fourth language. I don't know. We'll wait. We'll learn Punjabi properly first, but yeah, I definitely want to do that. And then the podcast is one of my main goals as well, right? Other than and then also school, but other things, the things other than school is definitely the podcast, and podcasts, music as well. I want to. The thing I'm not working on any releases right now, but I'm just working on just working out tracks. Always staying on it because being consistent is the most important thing. I took a break at the beginning of in 20. I took a break for a few months, like 3 4 months, and then I feel like that break wasn't necessary, to be honest. I feel like it slowed me down. So I think just being consistent on everything in the long run, a little bit every day. I'm a big believer of just being consistent with everything. You don't have to do a lot. Like for example, exercising. A lot of people just they say I can't exercise every day, and then they try to exercise and they exercise for like 2 hours one day, and they're so sore they can't exercise the rest of the week. you know, and which is not very effective.
Yeah,
So for
yeah,
me, what I've been trying to do is just exercise 30 minutes, every day, or at least 4 times a week. Um, like I can't go like 3 days without exercising. Like it just I'll feel like I feel weird without doing it, but being consistent with it, keeping the same amount of time doing this specific plan that I'm on that I made, it's like just staying consistent. It's all about the long run, right?
no, I do the same thing. Like I don't really. Whenever I take a break, I kind of just take it easy, and then I like go. further than down the line, it makes it way easier. Like there was a point where I literally exercised every single day, but it wasn't very long exercises. They're like maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah,
But they're like those are good. Like it's not like easy 10 minutes. It's like fast paced 10 minutes, right? This is up to like the second day or third day, and it just got really easy from there. And then also not only that helps is like I'm cooking, my food, so I don't really go out like eat out, and
yeah,
like that really helps too, especially eating healthier. Like you really feel a difference.
for
Like
sure.
honestly, I kind of like detox myself as much as possible, even including social media. Like I have not been on Instagram and this kind of stuff,
Hmm.
you know, because it's just a waste of time. Really, that's
I
literally
wish
what
I
it is.
could delete the explore page. If I could
You
delete
know,
the explore
there's
page, I would get rid of. Like, I don't go on Instagram a lot. If I got rid of explore page, I would probably only spend maybe 5 minutes a day, and it would just be
there's
me posting.
even on emails, everything that's a distraction. Literally, what I've done is every time I got an email from some company that I don't care about, I literally go unsubscribe. And I kid you not, on my phone, there's like no notifications whatsoever.
Oh, that's the best.
Literally notifications besides like maybe texts from people. And that's a good thing. Like personally, that's what I feel like my phone should just be for. It's just like communication, you
Hmm.
know? I
Yeah,
mean, I still watch YouTube, but
yeah.
obviously,
I watch a lot. I watch so much YouTube. Like,
honestly, YouTube is the new TV for me. It's always been that since YouTube has become a big thing, you
yeah,
know? Who needs TV, man? You got YouTube.
yeah. Like, I don't watch Netflix really. Like,
Yeah,
maybe the only thing I watch is anime, which I haven't watched a good anime in a while. But
I haven't watched. Well, that's a lie. I've watched a movie, but like I haven't watched a movie, or at least like a good 45-minute TV show, or anything that's 45 minutes on like either YouTube or TV. Which I
mhm.
just can't, bro. It's just like that's so much time. I could be doing at least if it's not something productive, at least I could do something like enjoyable, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, man. Like I just even movies, I watch those like clips on YouTube. It's like a brief rundown of the whole movie, which I don't know. I kind of like because I don't have to watch the whole thing, you know.
yeah. But I'm kind of like a movie head a little bit. Like, but honestly, like, I don't watch movies as much because it's a lot of time to dedicate, and usually you watch them in the evening, right?
Hmm.
Um, you watch a movie around like in the evening, and sometimes like during the week you can't do it. Like, it's just not like if you gotta wake up the next morning, like that's what I've been trying to fix right now is my sleep schedule. To sleep at least trying to get 8 hours is just so hard for me. Like, I don't know, it's just my natural. Like, even if I exercise, like I'm out all day walking everywhere, I still can't go to sleep like until it's 12 o'clock. Like, it's so hard for me.
That's for me. It's different, man. Like I try to go to sleep, I'll go to sleep.
Yeah,
So I think it's a gift to be honest.
I know, I know. Just a fall knockout. That's like my family friend, like my dad's close friend. He can just knock out anywhere. Like, he falls asleep anywhere whenever he wants. I'm like, this
It's a
is.
necessity, man. It's a fuel for the day. Like
I know.
I also learned that it's in order to catch up on more sleep, it's just like we were talking before about persistency. So like, people who say I'm just gonna sleep in that doesn't make you any less tired. In fact, it makes you more tired because you
Oh,
screw
it's
up
horrible.
you screw up your whole sleeping pattern.
Hmm.
So in order to get more sleep, it's better just to sleep like
Consistent.
little more, at least like let's say you got like less sleep yesterday, then the same time you go to sleep, but you might want to go like a little bit, earlier, like half an hour. And then if
Hmm.
you do that consistently throughout the week, then like you kind of restore your loss of sleep, you know?
Yeah, yeah, because you can't bounce back like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna sleep more the next day. It's not how it works. It's like you've
No,
already you've already like, okay, you're starting. It's like you can't. It's not like refilling a tank of gas. You know, it's like, okay, I'll fill up
Yeah,
half now and then I'll fill up the rest tomorrow. You know, like
it's,
you. Yeah, it's like installing a new tank of gas versus filling up the same one. You know, every day.
but yeah, this doesn't work like that. But yeah, like that was pretty interesting. Overall, you know, I don't know. I'm just trying to have more simplistic lifestyle. You know, like I feel like I kind of don't want my life to be complicated. Even when when thinking of purchasing a home or anything, I want my home to be simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really want a shipping container home because it's super simple. It's cheap,
Mm-hmm.
and like I would totally enjoy. Like I don't know about you, but I would enjoy having like just a small bungalow home. Like not like claustrophobic small, but like
Yeah.
enough space, but not big enough that like all the stuff I need is what I need compared to like all this excessive items that like
Space. Yeah. Item space.
decoration. It's just pointless. It just causes. Honestly, there's been studies that have shown that like you give a more cleaned up room or whatever, like your brain is you're less stressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like anything. But like that's what I really want to live for. Just like having living simplistic, because life is already too complicated. Just make it more simple.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stress is gone because of that.
Yeah. The stresses we make are created by us.
Exactly, just
They're created
control.
by our own minds, right? And
Hmm.
the best way to stop it is, just don't do it. Don't do the thing that stresses you out. You don't have to have all this stuff. I mean, just look at the people who have the least. You know, they don't have all these. We create our own problems. Money, more problems, right? It actually did a study like first week of class in organizational behavior. We had a reaction assignment each week where he posts something and you have to write like a little paper on it. Um, and it was about how millionaires are some of the most depressed people in the world, on average. And they're talking about how they're saying like after meeting 78,000 or to $80,000 a year, the the marginal utility of like gaining more money goes down dramatically. So every dollar increase makes you less and less happier after that point. And that's on average. Like that's because basically 78K per person meets your basic needs in most scenarios for most people. And it allows you to have, small little freedoms here. Like, oh, I can go out, a couple times a month. I don't have to worry about not having food. I'll always have a roof over my head, right? Around that pay level. But beyond that, people don't really gain any happiness from directly from money based on the study that they were doing. And they're talking about millionaires. It just becomes an endless cycle of maybe I need more money, it'll make me happy. Okay, I got 10 more $1 million. Now I need 10 more to make me happier, because I don't feel happy here. And it's just a vicious loop. Just like, a lot of those people who win the lottery, people had nothing, go from making 30,000 to making 30 million in one day, right? A lot of those people, they become depressed. They like there's one guy we're talking about, he divorced his wife took the kids, and he just went a downward spiral because you can't relate to people, right? And people don't realize that one of the most valuable things is just human connection. That's one of the most valuable things to us, other than time. Right? Time is the most valuable because we can't create it, and
Hmm.
like the connections you have with people is so important because we're social animals, right? We're not lions. We're not tigers that we can live in the forest on our own all the time. We think
Hmm.
of, we're a social creatures. Even if you're a so-called introvert, every person gains energy and has like a dopamine response to interacting with people, right? Introverts, extroverts, both of them in between. It's just that introverts get drained from it quicker than extroverts. Everyone gets energy from people, and a lot of people don't realize that money, like the more money you get, that's what say more money, more problems, right? More money, the more things to worry about. That's why what as you progress in life, as we move on, whatever we might make more money, we have always remembered that you don't more money doesn't equal more happiness, and we always have to remember what makes us happy. You know?
I feel like a lot of people, a lot of millionaires who are depressed, the only reason, you know, most like I don't see like people on Facebook like Mark Zuckerberg, all these people, he's being depressed. Like Elon Musk, like he's not really depressed. Like he's probably sad,
Hmm.
but like he's got like some bigger meaningful thing, going on.
Yeah, it's
Kind of
not just
like
about the money for him. Like
exactly.
yeah,
It
he's
was
an
never
example
the
of the
money.
yeah.
Yeah, but there's people who will like specifically want the title of a millionaire. It's kind of desire for money, and that's kind of why they're mostly depressed, right?
Yeah.
But if they're like a company that like you have a goal, like obviously that helps other people, and that kind of like helps bring purpose. Because the whole reason why people probably get depressed is like there's no purpose in purchasing these items.
Hmm.
But if you have something, you have your effort and your money contributed to something that's helpful and that you're like actively in it, right? Not just like, oh, you hired someone to do that for you, like, or you make a charity or whatever. Like, you feel like you participated in it, or
Hmm.
like you're like, it's, a helpful identity in that group.
Yeah.
Then it kind of like makes your life more meaningful, and you strive for better and successful, right?
Yeah.
There's a like, I always think about like how everything could turn out fine if you just know the right timing. Like if you know when to do what, when that happens, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
when to be smart, when to be dumb, when to make this certain choice, when to make that. Like as long as you know when, then you will never have issues. And like So whenever you have like a situation come up to you, it's like, oh, like when is it to be the best, choice to do.
Yeah.
It's always hard to do that. But I always think about that whenever something comes up to me. It's like the best choice is to make the right choice. Obviously,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's not so obvious all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes making a choice is better than making no choice.
yeah.
Sometimes, as a self-identified overthinker, I tend to be put in paralysis by decision making a lot because I tend to over research things and try to try to ensure that I have least chance of failure, which is good, right? You want to research things. You shouldn't go into everything blind. But sometimes once you weigh the options, you have to make the decision. Like that's one thing I've tried my best to get better at. Like, 'cause it's not my nature to just make decisions like that. Um, so like starting this, just some other things in my personal life, just doing it. Like, why not? Like, if I weigh the outcome, will it be a big deal if this doesn't work out? No, not really. You know, like
Hmm.
it's all about relative value. If the outcome, like for example, um, like buying a house, right? Or make it. Let's just say making an investment. That's something you're gonna take your time to research about. Making a big investment in something like a property or a business. Um, if it fails, you have a lot more to worry about, right? But uh, if you compare that to like a low level decision, right? You can't decide what to eat. It might just be as simple as that, right?
Hmm.
How disappointed will you be if you get one of these things instead of the other, and it's like not good, you know? It's like, okay, as someone who likes food, it might be a little bit it would be disappointing for the night, but I'll live, right? I just didn't have a great meal for one night. At least I ate, you know? So sometimes you have to just weigh your options and make the decision, you know? Sometimes even if the odds are against you, if you really just if it's a low risk situation, just do it, you know? Like honestly, I really adopted that just do it attitude um with stuff. Like the whole like 5 minute rule thing. If it takes less than 5 minutes, do it right now. It's such a good mantra to go by. Like especially as a procrastinator, um, like just doing like just any task. If it takes less than 5 minutes, just do it right now. You have
Mm-hmm.
you always have 5 minutes to spare any time of the day. You know, like making a post on Instagram or writing out some ideas for something or whatever. You know.
Yeah, no. Like, it's honestly sometimes hard, you know? It's just like you have to remind yourself why you're doing it in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And the only reason why we don't want to do stuff is it's just like, especially if many people who don't really have a goal, then obviously it's just hard in the beginning because you don't really have a reason. But people who have a reason tend to forget, you know? And then that kind of just motivates you. What I'm trying to do is just like trying to think of like, all right, well, if I don't do this, then like, look at what I'm missing out. And obviously, what I'm missing out is like my future, like
Mm-hmm.
perception of what my happiness looks like, you know? And that's what really motivates me. So I just think in my head, like, oh, I could be doing this right now. Like, I'm not even really thinking of myself in the present right now. I'm more I'm thinking of myself in the future of like me living. Like, I'm thinking of myself in the future if it was the present, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I'm living my future self in my head. So like it can kind of brings me closer to the idea that like it's not so far away. You just gotta keep on working.
Yeah.
It's just right there, you know.
You
To be
gotta try
within
and
the
love the process.
yeah, exactly. Right. It's like I think hopefully by the time like hopefully in a few years like they'll have like these chips that allow you to like be able to control your brain better, either in memories or something. And so like I feel like it would help so much more people like imagine if you could just put a chip in your brain and like you want to create a thought like what's it called like a lucid dream but like you could use your brain whenever you want to like think
Mm-hmm.
how powerful that could be you can visualize really strong like what motivates people to do things right you got anger kind of helps motivate because you have like that
Resentment.
passion and resentment all that kind of stuff but you're like what about joy like people who like to clean up the oceans, that kind of stuff, like, they enjoy doing that. And maybe if they could figure out a way to make a device to help you, like, I guess you can create a false memory that makes you like passionate, enjoyable, or motivated to help you get started in whatever you want to achieve. Probably make people's lives much easier than trying to like maybe stumble or have some event change your life
Mm-hmm.
perception, or you're just lucky, like maybe like both of us who have a quick glimpse and are not so stubborn on what we view and rather like embrace of what we are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that idea of embracing a failure as a part of everything, um, a lot of times as kids, failure is fine, right? We're just learning, but as we become adults, failure is looked at as a weakness. But I think someone who has failed and then got back up is much stronger than someone who has succeeded without failing.
Mm,
And failure, we learn the most through failure, right? So I think we should be encouraged to fail. We should be encouraged to try our
mm,
best. And if you don't do it, you don't do it. You learn why this didn't happen, and you move on to the next thing. Right? It might hurt in the moment, but always remember that there's sun will rise tomorrow. You're gonna figure out. There's always a way out of something.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Sometimes you got to cut your losses. It's all right. Just move on to the next thing. You'll forget about it eventually. You will.
Yeah, I never understand those people who are like so stressed about like I think like 90s or whatever. Like the point, well, it may not look clear, but the point of school is to get you to survive in the real world. And then, but people forget, like, it kind of just feels like a game. It's not competition.
Yeah.
And it's not even a good competition. It's kind of like whoever gets the best mark is like, I don't know, going to some cool ass school. But like, it's not very cooperative. Like everyone's just like trying to get the best mark or like take down other people down just so they're on top.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, what's that word? Hierarchy type of
Yeah.
system.
Yeah. It's
Especially with
hierarchical.
grades. With grades, you know.
Yeah.
Probably not as bad as like probably China or Japan, where they
Yeah.
take it
Like
way more serious.
China. Yeah. China, South Korea. It's like your whole worth as a child when you're like at that age is attached to your numbers. And here it's similar in that sense where you should get a good mark, you should work hard. That's the norm, right? But it kind of leaves out a lot of things because just because you get a high mark in something doesn't mean you're smart, really. What does smart mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Sm- a lot of people who don't do academically well, right, in school, in all the different like math, science, or whatever, right? They could be very gifted in social intelligence. They
Mm.
know how to interact with people. They can understand people very well. And a lot of times those are people who succeed, even if they don't get the highest marks. At the end of the day, if some most people are gonna go to get high marks to go to a good school and go to the good school, work hard to get a good job. But
Hmm.
eventually, you're gonna have to interact with a person. You're gonna have to interact with people at some point along the way because that's how society is built, and you need to build those as they always preach it in business all the time, soft skills. Being able to actually talk with people, get to know people, understand where they're coming from, learn how to speak in different contexts, and it's very important. And it's something that's very you don't learn in school, and you have to learn on your own. You cannot teach that through in the classroom.
Hmm.
Just like a lot of things I don't think should be taught in a classroom. For example, like I think math would be best taught in the within the context of where it's being used. Like for
Hmm.
example, if we learn trigonometry outside measuring the angle of the sunlight, I think I would have had more fun learning about it than in the classroom.
Or like if like this, like it would make more sense for like those tech classes that have that in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like learning how to like make plans for a house.
Yeah.
You have to know the angle. That's a perfect place to put it. And I could understand like they want like something like obviously it's like we can't be teaching math and this kind of stuff. But like math should be like pretty much I don't know how they spray, but definitely should be talking about like finance, money is a good portion of math should be
Mm-hmm.
talking about. Then like after the basis is covered of like how to like deal with money properly, then you can go into further detail of like like then if you're like okay now I understand money, now I know like specifically I want to do what's in math, so now you can study like further in depth, more advanced stuff, you
Yeah.
know. But they don't really care that much. If they did, they would have already made the system, you know? If they thought it was really that important, then they would have already implemented. But clearly, it's not the case,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, like for example, calculus is so useful in so many different contexts, but it gets a bad rap, right? Everyone thinks about calculus like, oh, it's so difficult and all these sorts of things, but calculus is so powerful in the way that it's used in many contexts, like tech and com sci. It's used all the time. Math is because things are built off math, right? Computers are built off math. Science, math is the language of science,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's just about when you can see things in the context, it gives a why to learn to the reason why something you're learning something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And expanding your breadth of knowledge is always good. Like, you should. It's not like you're gonna measure. Like, for example, I know how to calculate. I know how to solve a utility maximization problem, right? Based on how much will somebody buy of this product and this product if they prefer this, and this is how much they have to spend, right? I can calculate how much they're gonna buy of each based on the relationship between the two items. Like, I'm not gonna go around and do that in real life, right? Because there's so many other factors in real life.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept is helpful, right? When you're trying to, for example, find why a consumer has this sort of demand, why they chose to buy this amount of stuff, you can conceptually think about it, right? Okay, they prefer this one and this. They prefer these two objects in this ratio. In this context, and they have this much money, they prefer the objects in this ratio, and so on and so forth, right? So it just helps with understanding things in general, because I feel like that's very true. The everything is the same, but at the same time it's all different.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see similarities in so many of the things I do with like things that you wouldn't think would work together. Like like last episode we talked about martial arts and music, right? How can something that is sonic, pure that is very sonically based, vibration based, be similar to something that is completely physical, very mental? Um, it's almost from the outside it almost seems impossible, like to compare these sorts of things. But when you're invested in both, like I am, you see the similarities. Music is like for example, playing music with another person is like sparring with someone, practical sparring, technical sparring, where you're trying to make the other person better. I go, then you go. I go
Mm-hmm.
hard. I hit the key hard. You hit me hard. I hit the key light. You hit me light. You can compare it to language. That's what my instructor used to do all the time. Martial art is like the English language. You you would have a normal conversation with someone. That's a light sparring, right? You're there to make each other better, um, and you're just having an exchange of ideas. A debate is like a medium level sparring session where it's harder. There's contrasting views, but you're still being respectful of each other. And an
Mm-hmm.
argument is a fight where you're trying to dominate a conversation. In an argument, no one's trying to let the other person speak. In a fight, you're not trying to let the other person improve their skill. You're trying to win. And you see all these sorts of similarities in everyday life.
Oh yeah,
It's like,
everything's connected
yeah,
in some way, in some subtle way,
yeah. I find it's a
Or-
very spiritual sort of thing about the world. Um, like, I mean, ancient peoples always said we are connected to the earth, and recently, like, I really feel that connection. Things are the way they are because they're for a reason, right? And I'm not saying somebody did it that made it that way, but the reason why it's here is because it was this way. You know, if it wasn't this way, it wouldn't be here. Nothing would be the way it is. So
Yeah, for sure. I
you,
totally
yeah,
agree.
you feel that synergy with everything. You know, things
Yeah.
working the way it's supposed to be.
So it's like a big complicated gears of system. Small gears, big gears all work together some way or another.
Hmm.
So many elements. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
It's like, you know. But yeah, like that's pretty much it. It's, let's see what else you want to talk about.
yeah. I think that's good for the episode this week. So
Mellow
thank
conversation.
yeah, just had a normal good chat. Got a little philosophical. But that's usually how we get on this show.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, please check out the Way Podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at the.way podcast. Check out our website. It's in the link in our Instagram bio. And check out Ethan Sanchez. His name is Ethan underscore Sanchez on Instagram, right?
Yeah. Underscore at the end
Under
of the sentence.
all right. Ethan underscore Sanchez underscore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure to check out his book when it comes out. I'll let you guys know.
I
I'll
like
post that everywhere. Make
for
sure
sure.
everyone knows about it. And thank you for listening. We'll see you guys next week.